Yes, if you recall, even the word liberalism was hardly known in India at that time. And if people understood the meaning of liberalism, most people considered that as a dirty word, because the state was the presiding deity. It was accepted that the state was right, despite the economic reform out of compulsion, partial reform, I would say, in 1991. It was not out of conviction, remember, though we must compliment Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao and Dr. Manmohan Singh for doing it honestly to the limited extent they attempted it. They did not do it in patches. They actually did it sincerely, though very partially. But despite that, the state was still God in the minds of the people. So the biggest challenge for me was twofold. The first was politics was rejected by the middle classes, the educated people, and the youth, particularly the urban people. They thought it was dirty. You must not sully your hands. You must stay away from that. Therefore, one of my primary concerns in those days was to communicate to my fellow countrymen and women that, look, politics cannot be ignored because it shapes your lives. The obvious truism, a self-evident proposition, had to be drilled into the minds of the people again and again and again. Perhaps even now I continue to do that, but it's a little less necessary now because a lot more people recognize that whether you like politics or not, you have to be engaged because politics does shape your life and your future and your surroundings. But in those days, that consciousness was not there, particularly among the middle classes and the youth and the urban people. The second is the muddled notions of the state. As I said, despite economic liberalization, a very partial economic liberalization attempted in 91, the default option for most Indians is that state is right. And therefore, the commonest question I faced, my interactions were unlike normal movements and public discourse in India. I always had a question answer session, a very lengthy one, not 5 minutes, 10 minutes perfunctory one, but there used to be typically a 2-hour session. Every day I was traveling intensively, 30 days a month, 31 days a month, morning to night. From morning 5 o'clock, my tour would begin and end oftentimes at 10 or 11 o'clock in the night. That's the kind of intensity that I had to bring to the table. And almost every interaction had detailed question answer session, at least an hour's question answer session. Very honest. They were not premeditated. They were not doctored. There was no screening or anything. It was very open, free for all kind of a thing. So the commonest question in those days I faced is public sector versus private sector. People were so anxious because public sector was supposed to be good. That was the given thing. Maybe because of the word public sector, or because of the notion that government is right ultimately and private is bad. Today, I don't think it's that serious, though even today you do have some remnants of that. But for a liberal reform movement, that was a very testing time. The third is the difficulty in mobilizing people the way I wanted to mobilize, because I have forsaken the dharna and the typical vociferous noise-making protests and rasta rocos, because I always believed that in a constitutional democracy, the only tools available for people for change are the vote and the freedom exercised responsibly. That's what Dr. Ambedkar said, and that's what we have forgotten, unfortunately. I have never, I can say with complete conviction, never ever deviated from that, no matter what provocation or what temptation. But that means it was very difficult to mobilize people. And remember, we had no technology yet. No, the internet was just beginning, the emails, nothing more, no social platforms, social media platforms, and a very difficult environment. That's the reason why I had to travel every single day. For about 10, 12 years, I traveled every single day. I must have addressed at the very least, about 10,000 gatherings in about 10, 12 years, ranging from a few dozens to a few hundreds, in a few cases, a few thousands, across the length and breadth of Telugu land, but also in Karnataka and Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, but mostly in the Telugu land and both the states of Andhra Pradesh. And of course, oftentimes travel to Delhi and other parts of India when there were some national deliberations and conferences and so on and so forth. Therefore, to mobilize people and public opinion in a responsible way it should be in a constitutional democracy without the power of technology that is now available today. So I would say these are the three fundamental challenges: the middle class apathy, and rejection of politics, the notion that government is good and private is bad still prevailing in the country, and the inefficient tools in the prevailing Indian climate, where the normal mobilization is shor machana, generating a lot of noise and rasta rokos and all that, not thoughtful action, not informed collective assertion.